If I haven't met you yet, also for our new mid-year students, my name is Catherine, and I work in leadership and career development with my colleagues, Lauren and Dave, and I am the chair of the first year program committee. So all of these lovely people who you get to see on this call, we're really excited to be here to help you as you continue your transition into your life at CU. Tonight, we do have some really great guests joining us and some interesting and really important topics to cover. So my suggestion to all of you is if you have the opportunity to grab a piece of paper and a pen, I think that is going to be something that will come in handy for you. But other than that, we are covering everything about what looking for campus off-campus housing looks like. And then also talking through some budgeting basics, which is something that can be kind of challenging. And I know that it's still something that we all have to grasp as an adult too. So my first thing that we are going to do is we're going to do a poll real quick, because I want to just take a pulse and see where everyone is at in their journey, I guess, of finding housing. So if everyone can read through this question that I'm going to launch right now. So for housing, I want to, for this next year, if you could please indicate which most speaks to you. So A, have you signed a lease for an apartment or a house and believe that you understand your legal responsibilities? B, you've signed a lease, but you have questions about how to be a good tenant. C, you're really working on trying to find a new place, but you're comfortable with the process. Or D, you still need to find a place and you have questions. All of those answers are great. So I'll give you one more moment. We've got 7 more people who still have to, oh, those could be our adults. So that's okay. All right. So what I am seeing right now is a good amount of you guys have already signed a lease, but you are still trying to figure out what you need to do in order to be a good tenant, or you're really still trying to figure out where that amazing place is for you to go. So I am excited to then, we actually have a little game to play. And if you have seen Dana and Catherine on here, they're going to be our leaders in Price is Right for just a moment. So Dana is going to be our first person to help us with this game. So Dana, maybe give yourself a little intro while I pull up this slide.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dana. Oh, apparently I'm Morgan's idol. That's great. Big shoes to fill right here. I'm an assistant sports dietitian. I work with about 7 different teams. So if I don't work with you, you either work with Laura or Colby if you're on football. So we're going to play a quick round of the Price is Right, because I know when you move off campus, it can be really shocking to sometimes see the prices of things. So has everyone seen the Price is Right here? Does anyone want to chime in really quick with what the rules are in guessing the price? So the big thing is you're going to guess the price without going over. So we have some, in our questions, we have some multiple choices that you can choose from. So in the group chat, I want you to throw in what you think the answer is. So A, B, C, or D. And hopefully you'll learn a little bit more throughout this presentation about how you can then budget appropriately for next year. So we are going to go get started. Remember to throw your answers in the chat. So what is the average monthly rent for 1 bedroom in Boulder?
B.
All right,
B.
Lots of B's. Catherine, I know we changed the answer on this one.
The answer is, are we ready for the answer?
I think we're ready for it.
All right, it's B.
I'm seeing lots of B's.
Yeah.
The answer is B. So I know a lot of you guys have already signed leases, so maybe that helps you guys plan. So remember, this is going to be what you're paying each month just to live in a place with a roof over your head. So we're going to go to the next question. What is the average cost of internet for the month? How much do you need to pay to have internet? And we all know we need internet because we've got homework, we've got all of the things. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of C.
C.
A. Somebody's on the 5G. Awesome. G. Good for you. All right, I see lots of C's. Lucas, there is no E, but the correct answer is D. It costs about $70 a month for your internet. So that's something to consider. You might want to also factor in cable, streaming services. Those things also are on top of the $70 a month that you're going to be paying for internet. But if you have roommates, you can split it. So we got one more question for this half. What is the average cost of a security deposit? So this is something that you put down in case you break anything inside the house, but you're going to learn how to be a great tenant, so we won't have any issues with breaking anything. All right, I see some answers all across the board. For those of you who said D, I'm sorry to break it to you. Security deposits do exist, and they are typically 2 months rent. So that can be a lot of money that you guys are putting up at once, but I know Abby and Chase are going to come in with some great information to help you guys plan for that. So without further ado, we'll get moving on to this presentation. We'll have some more fun items coming your way later.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dana. I'm very excited to get to welcome our next guest. Jeff Morris is joining us. He is the director of off-campus housing and neighborhood relations, and he's just going to run through some different tips for how to have really great success in finding that apartment if you haven't, and also tips to be a really great tenant if you've already found that place. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Jeff.
Awesome. Thank you. Evening, folks. Happy Monday. Good to see a million faces on here. Always fun. I am just going to share my screen, but it looks like Catherine, the host, has disabled participant screen sharing. So I'll fill this time until Catherine is able to do that. Looks like we got it. Get this slideshow up here for y'all. Perfect. All right, can everyone see that? Just a thumbs up from a couple of y'all. Perfect, awesome. So welcome, folks. Again, yes, my name is Jeff Morris. I'm the director for off-campus housing and neighborhood relations here at CU. And tonight, I really just kind of wanted to review a whole bunch of stuff. So I apologize if I go super fast on some of these slides. It's a lot of info. Feel free to take any screenshots or pictures when we get to information that you think might be useful for your housing search or living off campus. But without further ado, we will get started. So the first thing I wanted to do was just introduce our staff in the office. So even though our office is in charge of 25,000 students that live off campus at CU, there's about 3 of us that manage that entire student population. So we do heavily rely on our student leaders and our student staff within our office who make up 2 different programs. One program is the Neighborhood Ambassadors, which I'll be able to review after this slide, as well as our commuter peer mentors. So we have about 30 to 40 student leaders in our office that work for us that are able to support our students that are living off campus. In my office, we have an assistant director as well, Tara Korst. Tara is in charge of everything off campus when it comes to neighborhood relations. And then we have Bruce Sarbaugh. Bruce is probably my all-time favorite professional staff member at CU. He is literally a free lawyer for you when it comes to all things off campus when you run into issues such as security deposits, lease reviews, or maintenance requests that you might be kind of getting in arguments with your landlord. So we'll get into a little bit more detail as far as what his free legal services are able to offer you as a CU student. So just a quick overview, who lives off campus? So right now we have a little over 6,300 students living in the residence halls and almost 1,000 students living in the Bear Creek apartments. If you're not familiar with the Bear Creek apartments, it's basically a residence hall extension. So you're still technically living on campus, but you're living independently and you are living in an apartment style situation. So it's a really great kind of second place to live after you've lived in the residence halls for a year as you're close to campus, but you're living in an apartment style situation. But again, a majority of our upper division students do live in Boulder. So the second that you become a sophomore, junior, senior, graduate student, you are most likely going to be living off campus in the community. And I just really wanted to run down a few different options for students. So residence halls in the Bear Creek apartments, graduate family housing, these are all housing situations that are managed by CU Boulder. So these are options that if you really didn't want to live off campus, you really didn't want to live in an apartment at all, there are options to live and stay on campus throughout your CU career. These are things that are always changing as far as availability goes. So I could say that there's availability right now in these spaces today, and then tomorrow that could change. So if being interested in living on campus and extending that kind of on-campus living experience is something up your wheelhouse, I would recommend reaching out to on-campus housing as soon as possible. And those folks can be reached out at studenthousing@colorado.edu. But my presentation tonight is about off-campus housing. So we'll jump right into it. So once you become an off-campus student, we do not kind of just let you go out into the world. We do continue that engagement at CU as far as what that off-campus living experience looks like. We know for a lot of folks, this is the first time you're living in an apartment, the first time you're paying bills, the first time you have neighbors who have lived in their homes for 20 to 30 years, and you're kind of the new person on the block. So what we have in our office is neighborhood ambassadors, who are our student leaders that live in neighborhoods all over the city of Boulder. These are your connections back to CU. So our folks are walking around the neighborhoods all the time. They're chatting with students. They're holding tabling events. They're giving away coffee in the morning, free food for dinner, and we're holding programs in the neighborhoods where students are residing. So we know how challenging it might be to get out of a class at 6 o'clock at night, go home, put on some sweatpants, and then there's a pizza party on campus, but do you really want to go all the way back to campus in your sweatpants just to have a slice of pizza? So what we've done is we've kind of altered the engagement process and the culture around programming for students that are off campus. And so we literally bring the events directly to the neighborhoods that our students are residing in. So keep an eye out for our banners, our flags, our signs, and our tents that are going to be popping up in the neighborhoods where you eventually will be residing. Additionally, you don't necessarily need to live in Boulder when you make that off-campus shift. So right now we're seeing an uptick in a lot of students moving into different places like Broomfield and Longmont, Westminster, Arvada, these surrounding communities around Boulder. A lot of that is just because, like we just saw in the Price is Right game, rent in Boulder is not necessarily the cheapest place in the world to live. So with that, we're seeing a lot of students move up the Highway 36 corridor to kind of make that a little bit more affordable. So since we have students that don't live in Boulder, but still need that direct engagement and support systems that we offer out of our office, we have another program that's called Commuting Bus. And these are basically students that are taking the bus in every day, they're driving every day, and they might need a little bit extra support than a student that is living in a residence hall or a 5-minute walk to campus. And with that, we have a brand new student lounge specifically for commuter and off-campus students that's going to be opening in March. This is going to be a space that's going to have televisions, video games, computers, printers, lockers that students can utilize on campus throughout the day. It's going to be a really cool space located in the UMC, and that should be open in about a month and a half from now. And just a reminder that all CU Boulder community members do get a free pass for public transportation. So this is why we're seeing a lot of students move outside of Boulder, is that if the public transportation ends up being free and you don't necessarily have to pay for that, you can take any of the buses from Boulder all the way out to Denver, to the airport. You can take the rail, and it's all going to be covered by the pass that CU issues with your Buff One card. So this is just a reminder for those folks that if public transportation comes down to it, maybe you don't have a vehicle and you don't think moving out of Boulder is a good idea, just knowing that public transportation is covered and absolutely free for you. So digging into the search itself, I know some folks on here have probably signed some leases and I know others have not. So just a kind of a few different things to know before you begin your off-campus housing search. These are questions that we really recommend that students dive into, find an answer for, and it's really going to help and round out that full experience. So what is your budget? And really digging into, a lot of students are just thinking about their rental budgets, right? But starting to put together that overall monthly budget is what we call it. So thinking of things like utilities, food, entertainment, going out, school supplies, what is that overall budget going to look like on top of rent, which will ultimately determine probably where you're going to live and what style of housing you're going to be living in. And also leading into our next question, whether or not you should have a roommate, because right now we are typically seeing a lot of students living with a roommate, wanting to live with a roommate, because it's going to cut those costs. It's going to allow bills to be cut, rent to be cut, to be shared. And sometimes just for the social aspect, having a roommate can be a lot of fun. Do you want furnished housing or unfurnished housing? So there are properties in Boulder right now where you can rent and everything in the apartment or the house is going to come with it. So bed, dining room table, dressers, everything in the kitchen, everything that you could imagine. Those options are going to exist. But certainly we see a lot of excitement with students that move off campus and want to buy all sorts of brand new furniture, which can be super fun. But just know that these two options do currently exist. And how far do you want to commute to the school and to campus? Where are classes going to really be for you? Should you be in a specific neighborhood based on a geographical location? Are you someone that wants to wake up at 8:55 for a 9 o'clock class and walk 5 minutes to campus? Or are you someone that likes to listen to music or podcasts and be able to take a bus for 20 minutes and you don't have an issue with that? So starting to think about how far away from campus do you really want to be? And then in addition to that, neighborhood-wise, what type of resources do you want to be next to? You know, restaurants, laundromats, maybe your unit doesn't necessarily come with a washer or dryer, and it might make sense to be near a laundromat so you don't have to lug your clothes 2 miles down the road in 3 feet of snow. Grocery stores, et cetera, pharmacies, cafes, closer to campus, starting to put together that idea of what's an ideal neighborhood for you that's going to work out for your off-campus experience. And how long will you need a place for? So I will preface this with that most leases in Boulder are going to be 12 months. And we always get asked the question, well, you know, the school year is 9 months long. Why do I need a 12-month lease? And that's a valid question. And the easiest answer is that leases and the academic calendar just do not match up. They don't go together, and they most likely never will. And this is just because the landlords know that if they sign you up for 12 months, they're locking in 12 months worth of income. So the majority of leases are going to be 12 months in Boulder. That being said, you can find leases for month to month, 6 months, 9 months, or even a deal that you come up with your landlord where you both decide that it's an okay amount of time that it will be on the lease. So if you do end up going and finding and trying to attempt to find a shorter lease for your apartment, just keep in mind that that typical monthly rent is going to probably be a little bit more expensive because you're paying for that premium of a shorter lease. But that being said, if you do sign a 12-month lease, and let's say the summer you are going to be traveling, you're going to be going home, you're not going to be here for your entire lease length, that's another specialty that our office will focus on and support you and help you with, is to find a subletter to fill that bedroom while you are gone in order to make sure that rent is paid and that lease is not violated. And this is a really important one because we have parents calling our office all the time, but the majority of leases in Boulder, I would say 98% of them are going to need a cosigner. And a cosigner is basically someone that is able to sign the lease with you that is guaranteeing that monthly rent for the lease length. And why that is because a lot of students right now just can't prove to a landlord that they're going to have $24,000 in a bank account in order to prove that they can pay rent. So finding a cosigner and having those conversations about who that's going to be, that could be a sibling, that could be a parent, that could be a significant other, really just someone that has more credit than you do and more financial stability where you're able to prove that you're going to have that money for a full 12 months. So have those conversations before you sign your lease, because the amount of times that students fall in love with an apartment, get a lease, sign it, and then tell mom and dad that they need to be co-signer for $24,000 over the year. It happens all the time, and it's not a really fun conversation. So just a heads up on that. This is just a snapshot. I know we just went over kind of the average rates for a 1-bedroom per month costs, but we also wanted to share the studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3-bedroom, and a 4-bedroom cost. So you'll see that these prices, they can fluctuate over time, but the majority of them are going to go up. And keep in mind that these numbers that you're seeing in this grid are going to specifically be for rent. So you'll see that if you do have a roommate, it's probably going to be cheaper because you're able to split it. And at the bottom here, we've kind of shared average utilities. So things like water, electricity, gas, internet, trash, on average, those are coming out to about $250 a month on top of your rental prices. So again, the more roommates you have, the more affordable this is going to be able to split not only rent, but also those utilities. And just a quick snapshot of the neighborhoods where our students are living off campus right now. There are 4 super popular places that our folks are starting to move. By far the most popular for CU students is going to be a lovely neighborhood called The Hill. It is super close to campus. It is super vibrant. It is super busy. There's a lot of students living in this neighborhood. If you're looking for more of a house style situation and less of an apartment, condo, townhouse, the Hill's going to be a really great spot because you're going to find homes that are going to have 3, 4, 5 bedrooms available. It's probably going to have a backyard, a front porch, maybe a roof deck, and it's going to be a standalone home where you actually have the entire property itself. And it's just super close to campus that it ends up being a popular option for a lot of students. Goss Grove is also a really great location for a lot of folks. This is a lot closer to Pearl Street, still walkable to campus, still bikeable to campus, but you're going to see a mix of this idea of detached homes, single family homes, as well as apartment style living at the same time. So it's going to be a really great diverse situation when it comes to housing types. East Aurora, I would say, is our second most popular neighborhood for CU students. And this is also just on the other side of 28th, very walkable to campus. East Aurora is a great location because it really is just a lot of taller apartment, traditional style condo living situations. And why that's great for a lot of students is because you're living in a building that has 100 other students living in that same building, but you're going to have your own apartment and you're going to be living independently. So a lot of students that like to continue to live with students will choose East Aurora for its location. And it's just the idea of a traditional style apartment living when they don't necessarily want a house. Now, Martin Acres is going to be more of your traditional style neighborhood. There's going to be a lot of families, a lot of young professionals. We're slowly seeing CU students become more interested in Martin Acres because they're seeming to get a lot more for their money. They're still getting their standalone houses. They're still able to put four students in the home itself. And you're getting a backyard, you're getting a driveway, you're getting decent parking, and you're still going to be fairly close to campus, if not a quick bus drive away. And then just to last mention is North Boulder. North Boulder is also becoming pretty popular amongst our folks because, again, you're getting a lot more for your money than you would in places like the Hill or Goss Grove, just because of their locations to campus. So again, this all being said, don't think that you absolutely need to live in Boulder. If money is becoming an issue and that's becoming a challenge to kind of afford Boulder, we totally understand that. And we can absolutely work with you one-on-one to find the best location that's going to work for you based around the budget itself. So for housing and options that are available, and I'll go through these quickly because we'll have a couple slides after this, but Ralphie's List is our ultimate housing database. This is basically apartments.com specifically for the CU community. This is really going to be focusing on live apartments, live houses, contact information for landlords, property managers. It's going to have roommate profiles where you can connect with other students and begin a conversation about whether or not y'all would be a good match. And your parents can also request an account if they would like to do that as well. We know that a lot of parents are putting a lot of the money down for deposits these days, and they want to be pretty involved with the housing search process. So you can give them that okay to create an account and to possibly help out with that search. We also have a document on Ralphie's List that you can download. It's called the Apartment Complex Guide. There are hundreds of apartment complexes in the city of Boulder. And one thing that we wanted to do was make it easier for you to look through those. So we've compiled all of the apartment complexes in the city, put them into one document and listed out where they're located, the amenities they offer, the type of rentals that they have, the lease lengths, their pricing, to really just put it all into one spot, because we know if you started to Google all the apartment complexes, it's going to take a few days to go through all of them. So definitely download this document, check it out. It's updated every other week, so it's going to be very live and very true. And then the third, which is probably the most important resource that we offer a housing fair 3 times a year, where basically we're bringing landlords and property managers directly to campus. So we fill up the UMC ballroom with actual landlords, actual property managers, and they're bringing their rentals, they're bringing their documents as far as what their rental costs are, their locations, and they're able to share those directly with students to get that information to you, to begin those conversations to see if there's a good fit. So this is just a snapshot of Ralphie's List. It's brand new as of 2 weeks ago. We got an update and we have a new partnership with apartments.com. So again, check this website out. Explore ralphieslist.colorado.edu. You're going to see all of the live listings that are available in Boulder right now, as well as that very important roommate search function where you can be able to connect with other students and find a roommate pretty quickly. And just to save the date, so I mentioned that housing fair, Wednesday, February 16th, which is next Wednesday, from 10 to 3 in the UMC ballroom, we are going to be holding our last housing fair of the year. It is our biggest and it is our busiest housing fair, so please stop on by. Even if you've already found an apartment, come on by. We're giving away TVs and projectors and a ton of free food. It's just going to be a really great time regardless. So if you need a place, definitely swing by, check it out, see what we have for resources. If you don't need a place, again, just swing in, swipe your Buff 1 and be entered to win a ton of free stuff that we're trying to give away to y'all. So keep in mind, this is always something that we get asked all the time. Jeff, it's too late to be looking for an apartment right now. Like everything's gone, like nothing's available. This is never the case, but we know every single year there's a rumor that starts in the residence hall among first-year students that if you haven't signed a lease by November, you're never going to find an apartment. And this just is not true. So we kind of wanted to bring this to the forefront and kind of squash that rumor and let you know that there is always vacancy in Boulder. We have never, ever seen the market fill up ever. So there's always going to be housing. There's always going to be apartments. And I would say the peak time to be looking for off-campus housing is between now and the beginning of April. And the reason is because landlords are now only asking their current tenants if they're going to be returning for the next semester. So now the market is actually going to get very, very busy. And you're going to see the best of what's going to be available between now and April. So keep that in mind during your search itself. And another piece that we really wanted to highlight here is that there are over-occupancy laws in the city of Boulder. So this means that in any house, regardless of the amount of bedrooms in that home or apartment, you can only have 3 or 4 students living in that house. And you might be saying to yourself, well, I've been to a house where 7 people are living in that home. Like, what do you mean? And you very well may have, because a lot of students go this direction to try and save money. The issue with this is that the law is so strict that if the city were to find out that you were over occupying and had more students in your house than where it was legally allowed, it's a fine of $2,000 a day, which can rack up very quickly. So talking about budgeting in budgets, that $2,000 is probably not something that you're going to want on your docket just because you tried to fit somebody else into your home. So I wanted to share this because it's extremely important. As we start to kind of move out of this idea of the COVID world, the city was putting a pause on over occupancy enforcement, but they are starting to pick it up again. So as we enter this new rental market, keeping this in mind, as we don't want any of our students to get a $2,000 a day fine, because that's just not money you need to be spending right now. And getting into pets, because we have a lot of students that are really interested in having a pet, adopting a pet, bringing their pet from home to live in their apartment. We wanted to make sure that folks understand that not all properties will actually allow for pets. And some properties even have breed or type restrictions. Dogs, cats, etc. are most likely going to be the most common that we see. And there typically will be a pet security deposit. On average, we're seeing anywhere between 100 to 300 one-time deposit for the pet. This means that you're going to get that money at the end of your lease. You will get that back as long as the pet has not destroyed the apartment. And then there might be monthly pet rent, which can average anywhere between $25 and $50 a month. This is why it's super important to read through that lease before you sign that, because once you sign that lease, you have agreed to these costs and these fees. And if you didn't know that those were aware, that could be a lot of money through 12 months of renting off campus that you actually weren't prepared to actually pay for. And just keeping in mind, pet damages can be super expensive. They can be extensive at the same time. If you're leaving your pets alone at home, make sure that someone is maybe watching them or checking in on them and that you're taking care of them, because the last thing you need to do is have a pet destroy the apartment and have that come out of your security deposit, which will be big bucks coming out of your own wallet. And so again, that's why it's so important to actually read through your lease. So that gentleman, Bruce Sarba, that I was talking about at the beginning of this, the legal advisor in our office, he is a completely free attorney in our office that students can utilize. Everything from reviewing the lease with you prior to signing it. He can review the lease with you after you've signed it, but he can also assist you in working with a landlord if it comes to any issues regarding things like maintenance or a security deposit dispute or fees that you believe you're wrongfully being charged. This service is free, and I can't stress enough to absolutely please utilize this as much as possible. So this is as easy as going onto our website and just scheduling an appointment with our attorney. It's quick, it's easy. He's available Tuesdays and Fridays all day, every single week. Again, please take advantage of this resource. It will assist you and help you in the very much so long run. So quick ordinances, just to keep in mind, I'm going to run through these because we are coming up on time a little bit for me. So ordinance that is really important because these are going to be in the lease and it is going to cost you money in the long run if you're not paying attention to them. So see if your lease has anything about snow removal. There's a lot of properties where you are going to be in charge of that snow removal. Sometimes properties have somebody coming in and removing that snow for them. But if you're responsible for that snow removal and you haven't removed snow on the sidewalk or your front porch or your steps within 24 hours of the snow stopping, you're going to be charged a lot of money from the city of Boulder, and you bet the landlord is going to pass that fee on to you. So keeping in mind snow removal. Just like snow removal, lawn care is also going to be in your lease. Who's responsible for pruning the trees? Who's responsible for the upkeep of that garden? If that's you, you need to make sure that you're actually upkeeping this and making sure that you're following the lease and what it says, because if you do not, the landlord will pass these fines that the city of Boulder is going to issue down to you as a tenant. And then noise and party ordinances. This is just a snapshot of probably the 3 most popular ordinances and noise violations that our students are getting off campus. Basically, this is really just to kind of have the neighborhoods be as enjoyable as possible, right? With all of these neighborhoods where our students live, there is no neighborhood in Boulder where it's only students. We have permanent residents that have lived in these homes for 20 to 30 years, and they're dealing with students that are having parties that are really, really loud, and they have babies, they have partners that need to get up in the morning for work, and they're dealing with this year end and year out. So these tickets that you could possibly get for any of these noise violations are extremely expensive. We deal with these cases all the time, and I can tell you students right now are getting noise tickets that are looking at $2,300 every single time that you get a noise ticket. And not only that, it's being handed off to your landlord, it's being handed off to the school. So the school finds out about the ticket, your landlord finds out about the ticket. It's just not a great place to be. So keeping in mind these ordinances that exist to really be the best neighbor you can for your permanent neighbors. Additionally, trash and other common tickets. If you have a gathering at your house and there's trash in your front yard, the city code from the city of Boulder is actually out at 6 o'clock in the morning the next day. And if they see trash in your front yard, you're going to get a ticket and you're going to have to pay that fine, which can be a lot of money. Other than that, in the Hill, there's some really specific laws, like you can't have a sofa or a couch on your front porch or your patio. And oddly enough, you need a bear-resistant trash can if you live up on the Hill. That's because there's a lot of critters. There was just a mountain lion sighting 2 days ago on 15th, and they're coming down from the mountains and they're actually just looking for trash. They're looking for food. So if none of these things are followed, again, fines from the city. I'm not making the city look really mean and angry right now, but I just want to be real with y'all to make sure that we're not getting ourselves into situations where you're paying fines and having lots of money. So this is just a program I wanted to highlight real quick. We do party registration out of our office. So if you decide to have any sort of social gathering at your house, this party registration program is actually going to allow you to not get a ticket. So what we do is we ask you to register your party. This lets BPD know that you're having a party. So if you were to get a noise complaint, that noise complaint is actually a warning. And that's actually going to allow you to not get a ticket. So if anybody's interested in this, we give away tons of prizes and there's tons of incentives. It's just a really great program to kind of help with that good neighbor behavior, as well as keep you out of the court system, as well as keep you away from those fines that are going to be super expensive. And again, once you move off campus, please introduce yourself to your neighbor. These folks are seeing houses that change tenants every single year. They want to know who you are. They want to know what you do at CU. And so we have a lot of programs in our office where our student tenants are able to connect directly with their neighbors. So if you ever have any questions or need any tips or suggestions on how to meet those folks, please let us know. The best thing you can do is get off on the right foot with your neighbor to have the best 12-month leasing experience that you can have. You don't want to not make friends with your neighbors because it's not going to make your off-campus living experience fun at all. And just a quick reminder, if you really, really, really love our dining centers on campus and you want to continue eating on campus, there are meal plans as an off-campus student that you can explore, and you can continue to eat off campus like this. So other resources available, on-campus student housing, like I mentioned. If you really got through this presentation, you're like, Jeff, you didn't do a great job. I don't want to live off campus. I want to just live on. Here's the folks that you can contact to have those conversations to see if anything is still available. Student legal services, if you ever get yourself into a true, real pickle, we have an office on campus that is live practicing attorneys that can represent you for any situation. And then these two resources here, Boulder Housing Partners, as well as Housing Helpers. These are more of a hands-on approach. So if you're going through all of our resources, you utilize what we offer for students, and you're still not getting what you're looking for, these two resources right here, Boulder Housing Partners and Housing Helpers, can actually be a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more one-on-one approach to get you the home that you are looking for your off-campus experience. So that's going to do it for me. I know I just spit a whole bunch of information at y'all. So I left our email as well as our website up on this right now. On our website, we actually have a live chat feature. So if you just want to have a live chat with one of our staff members, just hop on our website and you can do so. But if you have any questions, concerns at all, anything after this conversation, please send us an email, set up an appointment, have a discussion with us, or swing by our office in UMC 313. We are open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 in person. So we would love to see your faces in our office. Catherine, I don't know if I have time for questions or answers, but I'll leave that up to you. But as far as my stuff goes, I would say that's about it.
Jeff, you gave us so much great information this evening. So if anybody has a question, I'm not hearing of any, but I think I've put your information into the chat. And seriously, great presentation. There was so much info there. So let's thank Jeff for spending his evening with us tonight. So Jeff, thank you so much. We are going to run into our next little part of the presentation and throw it over to Chase Meyer, our friend from compliance, to talk a little bit about financial aid and some very quick budgeting basics. So if Chase, I'm going to throw it to you and I'm going to get your presentation up right now.
Perfect. I'll be super brief. I know we have some breakout rooms coming up. Thanks for having me. I work in compliance with Abby, for those of you that have not interacted with me before. Real quick, so Rob is not here, but he's the main liaison that we have to the financial aid office at CU. He would encourage you to fill out the FAFSA as soon as possible if you haven't already. So that applies to both headcount scholarship students or non-scholarship students or partial scholarship students, because there is aid that could be available for you. So in order to do that, you will need your parents to help you with their tax information. And that does have to be done every single year. So if you already did it this year, go ahead and do it for next year. It is necessary to determine your eligibility for a Pell Grant and a bunch of other state and institutional aid. There's a lot of students that we have that we know would qualify for Pell Grants or other aid, and they just don't fill out a FAFSA because they don't think that they have time. In general, it takes about 20 minutes to get the first part of it done. It can take longer if you're selected for additional kind of verification, but it's really not that hard of a process, and it's a good way for you to make sure that you're getting all the money that you possibly can at CU. You can see all the aid that's on your portal before your athletic aid is applied. So if you were to fill it out right now, you'd be able to get a good idea of what you should be receiving next year, or in the next couple of months. They should have all the scholarships and loans that you qualify for on your Buff portal. So it's a good way to kind of work with budgeting and know what to expect. So that next year, when you're getting into budgeting, like we're talking about, you'll have a good idea of what all is there. Quick note too, there are some weird notes with academic aid that you're getting from outside sources. So if you're getting any outside scholarships from someone else that's not at CU, please make sure you're reporting those to Rob and financial aid as soon as possible. You're allowed to have aid up to the cost of attendance, but not above that. This is just general reminders for everybody. We hammer this home all the time, but just make sure you're looking at your account and keeping it at 0 whenever possible. Class registration is coming up. So if your account isn't at 0, it's possible that you could have a hold on your account. Billing does send out emails monthly, and then bills are due basically the 5th of every month. So just make sure that you're checking that. As always, please reach out to us in compliance if you have questions on your financial aid. We can direct you to Rob. You can also go directly to Rob, and he's a good resource for you to have as you're working through your FAFSA and looking at your student accounts. If you are taking a CE class, just make sure that you know you have to finish that class by the end of the term in order to keep your aid. Kind of related to budgeting, if you don't finish your class by the end of finals, then you do have to pay Pell back, which can be a big budget impact to you. And then just know that if you're not maintaining a 2.0 GPA, you could have a satisfactory academic progress hold on your account, which means that you might not be able to get any more aid through CU if you continue to have poor academic progress. So those are things that we can work through on an individual basis. But again, we're happy to work through this with you as you guys have questions, and you can also reach out to Rob. We'll make sure you have his contact information available. And there it is.
All right, thank you, Chase. Now we are going to go into our breakout rooms and chat a little bit more about budgeting, since we know the basics from Chase and we know off-campus housing. And now we are going to talk further about that. Okay, hello everyone. It's good to see your shining faces, except for Julian and Alan and Quincy's ceiling. Hey, Lawson. Okay, we're gonna get started because we have a lot to cover. You guys all know my name's Abby. I work in compliance, but today we're mostly going to talk about budgeting. And like I said, we're gonna go super fast because we don't have a ton of time, but the basics of budgeting. So right now you guys, most of you are in the dorms, and then, so we pay your rent, you don't have a ton of expenses. It's not like you have many bills in your names, things like that. But this pretty much completely changes once you move off campus. So that's why it's important to have a budget. You need to make sure that your expenses, what is going out, is equal to or less than what is coming in, right? We always want to have a balanced budget. We see this every single year where sometimes your finances, you ignore them for too long, or they just start like snowballing and you can't get it back and things are bad. And so you just ignore it some more. And that is not how anyone can succeed in a budget. So if you start from the jump, if you are aware of what your finances are, it will be so much easier as we go. You'll hear a lot of budgeting principles, apps, spreadsheets, whatever that may be. Just figure out what works for you and stick with it, because ignoring your money does not solve the problem, right? So who's in this group? Everyone who is here is on an athletic scholarship that includes a monthly stipend. So that eases your budgeting because you know how much money is coming starting in August. You will know how much money is coming into your account every single month. So you have that monthly stipend. You know that it pays your tuition, fees, things along those lines. And what comes to you, in addition to maybe the Pell grant, if you qualify for, is that leftover. So that is your monthly stipend. These are the numbers for this year. They're within $50, I would say, every single year. So this is a good number to start out with, at least when you are looking for housing, planning, maybe how many roommates you have, where you want to live, things like that. You're safe to go off these numbers. They haven't ever gone down since I've been here. So budget off of these numbers. And like this says, these are school stipends. So every institution does things differently. If you talk to your friends in another school, they might divide up this total by 12 and get it every year. Maybe they divide it up by 8 and you get 4 a semester. We run it here August through May, you get an academic year stipend. So these numbers, or close to these numbers here, you will get that direct deposited into your bank account starting in August and going through May. So even though in May, we are only in school for like 2 or 3 days or whatever, you still get that full stipend. Same thing in December. So that's the money coming in, which makes perhaps your budgeting a little bit more easier. It's it's very stable, but you may have other things. So if those of you, since we're all in scholarship on here, you could have up to $2,000 in that Alston initial benefit at the beginning of every semester. So that would be probably the first week of September in the fall. And this week it was end of January-ish. So something to think about there. And then should you participate in all of the Alston programming, you would have up to $990 at the end of the semester. So the goal is to get that money out the week before finals. So just something to think about as you are budgeting. you have these extra awesome hits at the beginning and end of each semester. So importantly, and what seems to be the one obviously that sort of goes out of control, is your expenses. So it's important to know what you have to spend, or what you want to spend your money on, what you have to spend your money on, and sort of figure it out there. Remember, our goal is that your money going out is either equal or less than your money coming in. When your money going out is more, that's when we run into a big problem. There are a lot of expenses that you can't get rid of, that you have to have every single month, no matter what. So like was Price is Right mentioned, and security deposits, those tend to be quite a shock. So security deposits can be double, like first and last month's rent. They can be 1 month's rent, thing like that. So basically plan on, when you're moving into an apartment, paying at least 2 months rent just right off the bat. Obviously non-negotiables, expenses that you have to prioritize and that you have to pay, even though they're a bummer, you have to pay rent. That is a benefit of living in Bear Creek. Like Jeff mentioned, is that your scholarship pays the rent directly, and then you get the leftovers. So you don't have to worry about paying rent, which is nice. Make sure if you sign a lease that you are aware of what utilities you may be responsible for. So this is electricity, gas, water, sewer, things like that. All the stuff that makes where you live not just a box of concrete. Some leases are different. Some of them will bundle it into rent. Some of them you're responsible for everything. Some of them you're only responsible for some of it. A lot of times you have to put the electricity in your name. That's a whole other step. And make sure you know when these payments are due. I try to get all of my expenses out of my paycheck as close to the beginning of the month as I can, because then I know the rest of the month I have, it's more fun expenses. So if you can figure out when these payments are due, then you know how to budget. Obviously, make sure if you're required to have renter's insurance, that could be an extra expense. And then of course, phones, TVs, if you have a car, make sure you budget for a parking permit, things like that. Variable expenses are that part of your budget that obviously varies, and that maybe you have to move down the priority list if the budget is tight, like going out with your friends, going to a movie, buying new shoes, things like that. So think about what your life looks like, how you want to budget it. If you want to fly home for Christmas break, maybe you put a little bit of each stipend away for that. If you have a car, remember that. So just things to think about. These are the ones that are easier to control. You can't skip paying rent. You can't skip paying the electric, but maybe you cut down on your new clothes, or, think you are smarter about how you eat your food, things along those lines. So I need everyone to listen. If this is the one thing you take away, it is the summer. Every single year, I should make a Hall of Fame that I give this presentation, and then in the summer, everyone texts me freaking out. So I need you all to listen about the summer. So those of you who are not mid-years, ignore me, Josh, Travis, all of you guys. Those of you who are moving on campus to off campus, this is going to be the hardest part. So right now, you are all getting on-campus stipends. And then all you mid-years, this will happen next winter. So you are all getting on, what is that? $200 or $300, about $400-ish a month. You get that at the end of May. So the end of May, you get your same on-campus stipend that you've been getting all semester, because that's part of the school year. Then you don't get an off-campus stipend. So your big check amount, you don't go up by that $1,400 or whatever it is until the end of August. So there's a lot of budgeting that has to happen over the summer. I'm a visual learner. So as you can see, you get a stipend here at the end of May, and then you get a stipend here at the end of August, which means you aren't guaranteed anything end of June, end of July. So that's what makes this tricky. If you have August 1st rent and you don't get an August off-campus stipend until the end of August, you're going to need to save in order to cover that August rent. So like I mentioned, this summer between going on campus to off campus, which is usually freshman year to sophomore year, is always the hardest money-wise, especially if you have a security deposit to put down. So things to consider: where will you be in the summer? If you are getting a new lease, does it start in June? Like Jeff said, a lot of companies they just have more power and they can make you rent June to June, even if you don't plan on being back until August. Or maybe you get one of those school year leases and it starts in August, but then make sure you know what you are doing. Oh man, I went way too long. Anyways, summer is really hard. Make sure you know what is happening. Those of you that play football and basketball in here, you can get summer access stipends, and there's also a possibility to get summer school money. This is very limited. I would figure out how to do that otherwise. But like I said, the most important thing here is summer is going to be really hard, and make sure that you are identifying what your budget is. Avoid the avoidables. Don't get pets. That's my #1 rule. Do not get a pet. They are expensive. Maybe avoid parking tickets. So we are.
Thank you, Abby.
What's our budget? Got it? Okay. Ooh, 2 seconds.
I know we're all coming back together. And so I think one of our biggest things is we want to continue to be a great resource for all of you in all of these different questions that you might have come up. So just make sure if you do have a budgeting question, you know that you have Rob Sullivan's information now, and you also have Chase and Abby, who are great resources. If you feel comfortable asking me questions too, I would be happy to either find out the question or the answer, or anything like that. So we are almost done with our evening. We have one more round of Price is Right. So I'm going to throw this one over to Catherine this time, other Catherine Lindauer, and she's going to help us through this.
Awesome. I hope everyone learned a lot in their breakout sessions. That was super informative. Thanks, Chase. Thanks, Abby. So we're going to do one last round of Price is Right. So if you recall, the rule is that you need to guess the price without going over. So the first question is, what is your monthly expense if you were to drink a grande latte from Starbucks 5 times per week? 93, 50, 120, or coffee is life. There is no price. So please tell us what you think it is. Seen some B's, A's, D's. Kind of got a wide range here, folks. And that answer is, wow, and it's some J's. It is A. It is $93 if you were to drink, you had a grande latte from Starbucks 5 times per week for a month. So think about that $93, what you might be able to do with that money if you were to spend it on something else. Okay, our next question, which is, what is the price of a new pair of Yeezy 500s? And Dana, you're gonna have to tell me what these even are. A is $150, B is $290, C $480, and D is priceless. There is no price. They're amazing.
I don't really know what these are. Shout out to Quincy for telling me what the cool shoes were. So he should be getting this one right. Although there was a price range. So
seen a lot of D's. A lot of people think these are priceless. The correct answer is B. It is $290 for a new pair of Yeezy 500s. Thanks, Quince. Okay, and then our final question is, and many of you will need this in your new homes and condos, apartments and such, is what is the cost of a bundle of cleaning supplies, toilet paper, paper towels, laundry detergent, dishwasher detergent, dish soap, and all-purpose cleaner? $15, $45, $55, or $75 for all of those to make sure your home smells good, feels good, is awesome. I've seen a lot of C's, D's, 600 or more. And the correct answer is B. It's $45 for all of those cleaning supplies. So just make sure you can include those in your budget that we just talked about. Back to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine, and thanks, Dana, for putting both of those little segments together. So we are towards the end of our evening. Like I said, all of us want to be a great resource to you when it comes to figuring out how to live on your own for the first time, and then how to budget too. We understand that is a huge step, and so we just want to be of help with that. We're really excited because we have one more session of first year program for this year's cohort, which which is pretty cool. So we are planning to meet in person to have a little bit of a celebration and talk all about all of the things that you can take advantage of here in order to really set yourself up for success for your next steps after you leave us from CU and graduate. So just a quick reminder, that session will be on March 14th. And other than that, we want to continue to be here for you. So please just let us know if there's anything that you need. And we're really happy that we got to see all of your shining, happy faces. So we're finishing 3 minutes even earlier than we thought we were going to. So enjoy. And thank you for being here.